What's up, guys? Welcome to another wonderful episode of the podcast. Um, this week, we are no guest this week. We are going solo. I know some of you really like these episodes where I kind of just rant on and talk about whatever's on my mind, whatever I feel like is most relevant, in my opinion, in my point of view. And I kind of like it too sometimes. So that's what we're going to do today. And you'll probably find it interesting, anyways, and entertaining because obviously we got this crazy market still moving like freakishly crazy up and down every single day. You got Bitcoin just sitting right under or right at 1900 most of the time. We're getting really close to breaking through 20,000. Some serious, serious psychological barriers there. So what I want to do is talk about a really, really important piece of news that relates to news we had back around July regarding the space and where we're moving in terms of regulation and classification for cryptocurrencies as an asset class and legitimizing that. We're very, very close, and it looks like we might actually get it in December. Um, so I want to cover um, the news on that and why this is important, the connections there, and why this, could be a very, very good thing if you're obviously an investor and the price moves in the right direction, but why this could also be potentially a bad thing. So we're going to dive into that. And there's a couple other things regarding, Visa, which you probably heard about in their partnership with BlockFi, and then PayPal you've heard about probably already. But, things like that are interesting to, rehash and cover a second time as we get closer to the beginning and first quarter of 2021, because it's going to be a really interesting year, really interesting. You got the presidency up in the air, so many things. So what I'm going to do is start by talking about um, this. Brian Brooks, the acting comptroller of the currency, he back in July came out and pretty much gave the green light for the banking system. And I've talked about this before on the podcast. He pretty much gave the banking system the green light to begin making their preparations to hold custody of crypto for their clients. So what they'll be able to do is allow you to buy and sell through the bank. They can hold a wallet for you, give you access to different liquidity sources and different tools and different things that you can use to grow your portfolio, make money, invest, and transact in crypto as well as we get closer and closer to that. So a lot of positives for the individual, for the business, um, SMEs to large corporations, everything in between. A lot of positive stuff that came out of that. And you could see the preparation for that with companies like PayPal and Visa. But Brian Brooks also came out again, about a week ago, since this episode is releasing. And he said that we should expect clarity within the next 6 to 8 weeks, clarity on what the regulations will be. And I don't know if that's, they're releasing these regulations or they're giving us forewarning of what's coming in 2021 so businesses can prepare. Either way, you're going to want to stay tuned for December because it looks like the year is going to end on an important note for crypto going forward and its future. He says that he wants to avoid negatively impacting crypto, but he also wants to strike that balance where he's preventing money laundering. I guess that's fair. I can understand that. Why I tend to want to side with his belief and believe him is because he was the Coinbase chief legal officer and he worked with and under Brian Armstrong, who also came out recently and stated the rumors over regulations over self-controlled wallets, regulations that might come out via the Treasury, regulations that might come out via the SEC, a lot of things up in the air. And remember Brian Armstrong, who Brian Brooks worked with, two Brian's there, Brian squared. Um, Brian Armstrong is leading Coinbase, and Brian Brooks formerly worked with him at Coinbase. I don't know if they still work with him or not. I don't know how that works. I don't know what affiliation or if they can affiliate. That's probably another good question. But either way, I'm sure those guys talk. So there's a lot of talking behind the scenes and whatnot. So there's something coming. There's something coming out. Brian Armstrong's thinking that maybe, the way he's kind of referenced this, maybe this might not be a good thing. There should be some room for concern. And then, you have Brian Brooks on the other side saying, this will be a good thing for crypto. We need the regulations. And I do tend to agree with that. We do need the regulations so that we can have a more formalized and set in stone system so people can feel confident getting into it and using it. So as we get closer to the end of the year, we're going to find out what that is. And I think this is bubbling up to be something really, really important. And, this path for crypto companies to become banks is kind of like what is going on here. What Brian Brooks is doing is building, hopefully, is at least from what he said and what it looks like he's doing, he's building this path for crypto companies like Coinbase, for example. So interesting coincidence, to become a chartered bank or become a bank in some other legal way, however they set that up. But it looks like that's the way it's going. And I've been saying this for a long time. Traditional banking is dying and the tech world is taking over banking. It's much easier to bank through Facebook or Apple or Samsung than it is to bank nowadays with Bank of America or Wells Fargo or US Bank or Chase. They give you so many problems. It's so much easier to just get one of these Cash App cards or SoFi cards or BitPay cards. It's so much easier. Coinbase has a card coming out too. A lot of things to expect by the end of the year and beginning of 2021. But, the tech industry has taken over banking and it's very noticeable. And I don't think the banks are going to be around much longer unless they have an avenue to get into crypto and leverage, the market they already have. So I think that's what's boiling down to. You got this kind of this invisible triangle pattern with tech and banking right now. And, something's going to break. Either banking's going to survive or tech's going to absorb it completely. So something's got to happen there. And this will be very important in that process. Either way, Brian Brooks has been very adamant that he thinks this will boost crypto. This will be positive for it. I really hope so. He is a good person to be, creating these laws and regulations for the banks and for the financial system and giving his input since he's kind of a part of it and has a history with it through Coinbase. I think that makes him very qualified to deal with it, at least from the crypto aspect. I don't know how that's going to play out for other financial areas and how that affects other markets yet, because it's so complex. But for crypto, it looks like that should be a good thing. And given the significant news and the corporate interest lately, and you got Paul Tudor Jones chiming in, you got all these hedge funds, buying up like $500 million in Bitcoin, and people really starting to believe that Bitcoin has this digital asset, digital gold of the future type of value, rather than just being a having transactional value. So, this is shaping up to be very, very interesting. And given, all that news, the corporate interest, I think we are heading for a much more significant market valuation in the next couple months. And you will probably likely see a continued run up through December, through the holidays, as everything is calm for the holidays and people are talking about this. They're spending money. They're just kind of enjoying life. And the craziness will kick back up starting in January when we get closer to the, election date. That's just my guess because, people are tired. 2020 has been a shit year. Everyone's going to want to relax and spend money and talk about things and all the good stuff. And like Bitcoin's doing well in places where you can diversify and potentially make money and have interest on your existing money going into the future, and what's going on with everything. I think that it'll be very positive for crypto, very positive for blockchain. So, and also the fact that on the technical analysis, which I do on BlockHash Plus, so you need to go to patreon.com/BlockHash and sign up for my chart analysis. I don't know. I do chart analysis about every single week on Patreon. So go sign up. It's like $10 a month, like 2 cups of coffee. You can afford it. You can do it. It'll give you an idea of like how I look at these charts and how I kind of price things out to get an idea of where the market's going. But it looks like Bitcoin is staying and sticking very close to 1900, and it's moving in, these $500, $1,000 daily swings every day or every couple days. And, it's had a dip or two, but it keeps bouncing back up and hitting a wall and sitting around 1900, like between 18.8 and 19.4. So it looks like there's a lot of pressure to move upward. And I think as the buying continues, that sentiment continues, as all these potential partnerships and updates come out, with Cardano's Goguin stuff coming out, with Ethereum 2.0 out, with Ripple's, potential partnerships I talked about in the last podcast I did solo. There's a lot of things going on under the table, a lot of things that are about to transpire. So I think the market's, destined in a very short period of time to have a significant market revaluation, I should say. On top of that, you have PayPal, allowing buying and selling on their platform, I believe starting beginning of 2021. They announced it a while ago. Visa recently announcing their partnership with BlockFi to have a credit card where you can earn Bitcoin rewards or cash back in Bitcoin, or however that works, but it will be Bitcoin based. So Visa is investing in this space and getting involved. PayPal is in this space. They've been around forever, getting involved. These are good signs for adoption and legitimizing the industry. There's a lot of people, they still look at Bitcoin, they still look at crypto. They don't understand it. They don't really see it as an asset. They see it as either speculative or something that's, a wazi, a woozy, like whatever the word is for that, doesn't exist. It's fairy dust, to quote Wolf of Wall Street. So it's important to have these things, have corporations come out, big business come out and show support and build things in this community and create partnerships with projects. It validates the industry even more and shows that this is a real thing. So if you invested early on, if you invested recently, these are good signs for you that this industry is going to continue progressing uphill into the near future. And it looks like the regulations will be favorable. The regulations aren't being put in place by Brian Brooks to crush crypto. The regulations are being put in place so that you can use it legally and so that it meets all these standards for KYC, AML, and money laundering and terrorist financing, things we try to avoid and that, do become problems in our country. So, once those issues are solved, and it looks like maybe they did find a workaround for that, this industry will take off because it legitimizes it. I've said that for a very long time, that when we have the regulations, the favorable regulations, this industry will take off because it legitimizes it. That's the most important aspect right now, is people feeling comfortable, capable, and willing to invest in this space. So anyways, that's my rants. Very, very important and cool to see Brian Brooks doing this. And it's important that you are aware of it, which is why I'm taking the time to really emphasize it. So pay attention throughout the rest of December. Don't worry about little spikes up and down. That's going to happen, especially with Bitcoin, especially with people speculating. Look at the progress over the last year. Look at the fact that Bitcoin's the best performing asset over the last decade and is slated to be the best performing asset of the next decade. And crypto as an entire industry is growing massively. And I could get into valuations all day long and talk about the comparisons, where Bitcoin could end up, where Cardano could end up, where Ethereum could end up, where Ripple could end up. I'm not going to do that on this podcast because I'll just go forever. So just keep in mind that this market's very young, very, very young. And, these regulations are very important. And I'll leave it at that. I think I've spoken enough. So, again, hope you enjoyed this little solo quest into Brian Brooks and crypto and Bitcoin. Um, and be sure again to go to patreon.com/BlockHash and sign up for the chart analysis. It's $10 a month, $20 a month. You get everything on there. Again, it's the equivalent of like 2 cups of coffee a month. We can afford it. Everyone can afford it. Just go check it out for a month. Try it and see if you like it. A lot of good stuff on there, whether you're a trader or you're just looking for more information or research. It's good stuff. Good to have diversified opinions. So go check it out. Um, Obviously, be sure to check out the podcast on blockhashpodcast.com. Trying to get more traffic to the website and not just the syndicated platforms because they're not as reliable as the website. So definitely spend some time on the website and look at all the cool stuff and sign up for the newsletter. I'll put out the newsletter more frequently as well. And then next guest coming out is already slated. It'll be a cool one. You'll like it. And then tons and tons of people, guys. I'm telling you, I got plenty of guests coming on. Don't worry. It's just crazy trying to schedule, given the fact that it's the holidays. Everyone's done with 2020. Everyone's tired. No one wants to work. So don't worry. There's a lot of people slated, a lot of really cool, well-known people. You'll get updates when that's ready to come out. So just stay tuned. Anyways, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.